it's Mo Egger. Do you love college basketball as much as I do? No matter who you root for, there's no better place to watch the games than Long Neck Sports Grill. They've got 3 locations in northern Kentucky, Wilder, Hebron, and Ridgewood. Each one of them very easy to get to. 4K TVs all over the place, and the sound is on for all the big games. Don't forget about beer. No place has a better selection, and of course, you've got to try Long Neck's wings. Their menu is awesome. Long Neck Sports Grill, a college basketball fan's heaven. Stay late, come often. We've done this every week since week 1 of the football season, talking injuries, mainly NFL injuries, with one of the experts at OrthoCincy. The awesome thing about OrthoCincy is they've got specialists and locations all across the tri-state, and they offer walk-in orthopedic urgent care weekdays from 9 to 9 and Saturdays from 9 to 1. You can learn more at OrthoCincy.com. That's OrthoCincy.com. With us today from OrthoCincy is Dr. John Linz. We're going to talk pretty much exclusively here about Patrick Mahomes. Start with this. There are ankle sprains and there are high ankle sprains. Patrick Mahomes has been dealing with a high ankle sprain. What are the differences between the two?
So I would tell you, Mo, that sprains in general involve stretching the ligaments, either stretching or tearing the ligaments. And ligaments are bands of tissue, almost like tape, that hold the bones together, and they support the joints and stabilize the joints. So a low ankle sprain is a sprain that occurs below the level of the ankle. It's the typical, you're playing basketball or whatever sport, and you roll the ankle in or out, and you say, I damaged my ankle. That's usually the typical low ankle sprain. All below the level of the ankle. When you injure the ankle above the level of the ankle, the ligaments that hold the shin bones together, the 2 bigger bones, that's considered a high ankle sprain. The difference is that usually occurs with a rotation of the ankle and the foot out, or if the foot's planted, the upper leg gets rotated in. But one way or another, the ankle gets rotated out, and that tears the ligament that holds the shin bones together. That's a high ankle sprain.
So obviously, he received treatment during the game. He came back into the game, and I think a lot of us, when the game ended, said, man, I can't imagine what sort of pain he's dealing with. So kind of a 2-part question. Give me an idea of the sort of treatments that he was likely to get while, dealing with the injury in the short term, and then how severe must that pain have been for him immediately after he got done playing?
So the short term, you obviously saw him on the sideline. The typical thing that we would do is we'd first figure out what happened to him, where it was bothering him. They tried to re-tape him or over-tape him on the sideline, and then they would check and see what he could do functionally. If you can run and cut and at full speed, then they would let you go back in. If not, they're going to take him out, which is what they did. They took him to the locker room and got x-rays to make sure nothing was broken. Once they did that, at halftime, the things that they would do is they would take the taping off, or sometimes they'll leave the tape on just to try to keep his swelling down, but they're going to ice him. They're going to give him anti-inflammatories. They're going to elevate him, try to keep him off of it as much as possible. And that's what they would do at halftime, and then retape him, and they let him go, and he did fairly well. As far as his pain is concerned, his pain afterwards, I'm sure, and it definitely was bothering him. You could see how it was bothering him during the game, and I'm sure his pain was at least mild to moderate. But if you think about it, all the adrenaline from the game, the treatment he had received, and because this was kind of an acute injury, his inflammation probably wasn't too bad right then. I would tell you the next day or the day after, inflammation tends to peak at about 48 to 72 hours, and I would bet that's when his pain was the worst.
Is that why he could conceivably get through Saturday's game and then either be even more physically compromised the following week or even not play?
Absolutely. His first 48 to 72 hours afterwards, there's no question his pain was going to get worse. And one of the treatments, like after the game, his treatment would have been to be in a boot, He may or may not need crutches. They would have done the RICE program, the ice compression, elevation, all of those things, giving him the anti-inflammatories. If you see him on crutches, you know that the injury was pretty significant, because a lot of times they'll just let them walk around with a boot if they're comfortable. And the less comfortable they are, the more likely they are to use crutches. So definitely his first couple days were probably more sore the next day and the day after, and he should be getting better after that.
How much, let's look ahead to Sunday, how much would you expect, based on what we know, how much would you expect his mobility to be compromised when Kansas City plays Cincinnati?
Well, Mo, even a mild high grade or grade 1 high ankle sprain is going to affect his mobility. There's no question. High grade ankle sprains tend to affect athletes that cut and pivot and have to push off suddenly, like running backs, defensive backs, linebackers, and definitely quarterbacks that are mobile, greater than, say, linemen. So the more severe the injury, if he goes from a grade 1, which is a mild sprain, to a grade 2 or 3, and there's no way he could play if he had a grade 3, which is a complete tear of the ligament. If he had a grade 2 sprain, he's going to be extremely limited. And even with a grade 1, he's not going to be the same Patrick Mahomes that he would normally be.
Dr. John Linz from OrthoCincy with us for another few minutes. The temperatures on Sunday evening are expected to be well below freezing. How does extreme cold impact the treatment he might be getting throughout the course of the week, and then what he's going to be dealing with while playing through pain on Sunday?
Well, it's kind of a double-edged sword. The cold weather will help and hurt him. It'll help him because the cold will decrease his swelling. Just like, after any injury, what do? We put ice on them, and that's the decreased swelling and decreased pain, which is what it will do to him playing in the cold. And so that's the benefit of him playing in the cold. The detriment of him playing in the cold is that he's in between when he's out and playing, he's going to get really stiff really quick. And so you may see him on the sideline, on the stationary bike, or working with the trainers, or even in the medical tent trying to receive some treatment in between to try to keep him as mobile as possible.
I've heard of a procedure called a tightrope. So if the damage for an injury like this is severe enough, is this the most common and effective treatment option?
It is now, and I will tell you that 10 years ago, what we would have done is put a screw or two across where the ligament would be, and you hope that area scars in, and then you take the screws out down the line, usually at about 3 to 4 months. And we've gotten away from that. The newest procedure, which has been out since actually was approved in 2005. They started using it a little bit more consistently in 2010. But the tight ropes are basically a high tensile strength suture that is attached to a toggle on one end and a button on the other. And we drill a hole that goes across where that high ankle ligament would be. And then you pass the toggle through the bone and it comes out the other side, flips, and then you cinch down that button and tighten it up. And it acts just like their ligament. And in the recent past, we've actually started using plates with that. And the plate spreads out the pressure. It helps to improve the overall stability. And just as an example, if you remember Tua Tagovailoa back in 2019, he had an injury during the SEC playoff game, the championship game, and was able to come back at 28 days after having a tightrope procedure and go ahead and play in the playoff game. So which is pretty amazing, because as of right now, what we tell most people is earliest time frame to get back with a tightrope is about 6 to 8 weeks, and that's pushing it. In our amateur players, it's probably a little bit longer. We'd tell them 8 to 12 weeks. But there's been a lot of high ankle sprains this year. If you look at Mac Jones with the Patriots, Sam Darnold, Saquon Barkley, Jalen Hurts, there's been a lot of those injuries. And yes, tightrope is now the standard of care.
Awesome insight. It's going to be fascinating to watch this unfold on Sunday. Dr. Linz, I appreciate the time. Thank you so much.
Absolutely, Mo. Thank you. Have a good day.
Most definitely. That's Dr. John Linz from OrthoCincy.com. I say this all the time. The great thing about OrthoCincy, specialists in locations all across the tri-state and walk-in orthopedic urgent care. Weekdays from 9 to 9 and Saturdays from 9 to 1 in Edgewood and Eastgate. It goes without saying, it's easier and definitely cheaper than going to an ER when you've got an urgent orthopedic injury. Go to OrthoCincy.com. That's OrthoCincy.com. Hey, it's Mo Egger. When football season overlaps with college basketball season, there's no better place to watch all the games than Long Neck Sports Grill. 3 locations in northern Kentucky, Wilder, Hebron, and Richwood. Each one of them has 4K TVs all over the place. And, of course, the sound is always on for the big games. Plus, the menu at Long Necks is awesome. You've got to try the wings. And, of course, no place has a better beer selection. There's a ton of games happening right now. Grab your buddies and get to Long Necks. Stay late. Come often.